Help if I cut the mic on. I call this June meeting of the Board of Trustees to order. Trustee Rader is joining us virtually, and good morning, Greg.
Good morning.
And the invocation, Trustee Ogletree, will you provide the invocation?
Would you join me in prayer? Lord, we acknowledge who you are as the creator of the universe, Lord, who's given us good and perfect gifts. We thank you for those and for the opportunity that we have to use those to serve you. Lord, you've told us in your word that if we ask for wisdom, that you'll give it to us. And we're coming before you today asking that you just pour out your wisdom on us, Lord, and that you give us discernment. Lord, we ask for direction from you, that you make our path straight. Lord, we express our thanks for the many gifts that you've given to us. I'm particularly thankful for this IHL board and for the way that you've gifted the individuals here with experience and skill and knowledge. Lord, that they in so many different areas that we can work collaboratively to help advance higher education in our state. Lord, I ask that you bless each of our board members, Lord, that you bless our presidents. We thank you for bringing all the IEOs that you have brought to us, Lord, and that you put at our institutions. Ask you to continue to bless them, that they be as trees planted by rivers of water, that they prosper, Lord, and that their leaf not wither. Lord, that you just continue to bless our institutions and all of the faculty and staff and administrators there. That you bless our IHL staff, Lord, who work tirelessly to help advance higher education here. Lord, that you protect us and guide us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. On behalf of the IHL Board, I'd like to welcome Trustee Don Clark to his first IHL Board meeting. We look forward to working with you. We also have today several Student Government Association officers here. Welcome to you all. Please use the microphone near the wall and tell us your name and official titles.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Hannah Watts, and I'm serving as the Student Body President for the University of Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Walker Jacqueline. For the Associated Student Body, I serve as President's Chief of Staff at the University of Mississippi.
Good morning. I'm Jack Jones. I am ASB Vice President at the University of Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Carson McFatridge, and I serve as the Student Body President of Mississippi State University.
Good morning. My name is Hunter Yelverton, and I serve as the Mississippi State University Student Association Director of Policy.
Thank you for joining us today. Has everyone reviewed the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Excuse me, Greg. All opposed say nay. Next are the consent agendas, and there are a few changes. Item 1, the contract between JSU and Aleutian LP on the finance consent agenda will be moved to the finance regular agenda. Item 2, the contract between MUW and Mystics LLC on the finance consent agenda was pulled at the request of the university. Are there other items that need to be moved to a regular agenda? If there's a motion to approve the consent agenda as revised, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Trustee Rader. Thank you. Trustee Lucky, will you present the academic affairs agenda?
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see y'all here today. It's particularly good to see the students involved in government and their universities today. And I want to thank y'all for being here and starting that process. And I hope you will continue that involvement as you get older. So thank y'all for being here. Today, we have 3 items on the academic affairs agenda. And so I would like to ask Dr. Casey Presswood to provide us with the information on these 3 items. Thank you, Dr. Presswood.
Thank you, Trustee Lucky. We have requests to add new academic degree programs from the University of Southern Mississippi. The first is the creation of the Bachelor of Applied Science in Allied Health to be housed in the School of Health Professions. This 120-hour degree program is a fully online program specifically designed for allied health professionals with an Associate of Applied Science degree. This program currently exists as an emphasis within the Bachelor of Science in Public Health degree, and the proposal is to elevate this to a standalone degree program. Mississippi State University and the University of Mississippi offer similar programs. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there are about 1.8 million openings projected each year in allied health occupations due to employment growth and the need to replace workers who leave the occupation. Allied health professionals obtaining a 4-year degree also play a role in addressing workforce development needs in both healthcare and public health sectors. The University of Southern Mississippi also requests the creation of the Doctor of Philosophy in Computer Sciences to be housed in the School of Computer Science and Computer Engineering. This program currently exists as an emphasis within the Computational Science PhD program. This proposal is to elevate the emphasis to a standalone degree program that will be offered online. Mississippi State University offers a similar program. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, an estimated 682,800 new jobs will be created from 2021 to 2031. The average salary for a new PhD in computer science ranges from $100,000 to $200,000. In May 2023, the median salary for computer and information research scientists was approximately $127,000. Board staff recommends approval of these items.
You have heard the recommendations. I make a motion to approve this item.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Trustee Rader? Great.
Next, we have requests to add new centers. The University of Mississippi is requesting the Center for STEM Learning. This extensive scope and outreach center will be housed in the Jim and Thomas Duff Center for Science and Technology Innovation and will support the objectives and programs of several campus units, but will offer a distinct focus on the STEM disciplines. The center will also provide a structure to coordinate and optimize the use of the new teaching facilities in the Duff Building. 4 new faculty and 5 new staff will be needed for this center. The anticipated annual cost is $550,000, with funds being provided by the University of Mississippi, donors, and grants. The University of Southern Mississippi is requesting the Gulf South Center for Community Engaged Health Research and Innovation. This limited scope and outreach center will be housed on both the Hattiesburg and Gulf Park campuses. The center's mission is to support team science, multi-stakeholder partnerships, and workforce capacity to conduct community-engaged and solutions-oriented disease prevention and healthy aging research to address health disparities. No new faculty and staff are required. The anticipated annual cost is $1.2 million, with funds coming from federal NIH and NSF grants, state, donor, and congressional funding. The University of Southern Mississippi is requesting the Center for Community Engagement. This limited scope and outreach center will be housed in the provost office. The center has been in operation at USM since 2000. In 2013, it was merged with the Office of Community Service Learning. The center now meets the standards of being a true center, and USM is requesting that the center be reestablished. The Center for Community Engagement serves the entire USM University, faculty, staff, students, and external community organizations to develop and coordinate meaningful and mutually beneficial community engagement experiences to address university and community needs, effect positive social change, and cultivate active citizen leaders. Board staff recommends approval of these items.
You have heard the recommendation, and I make a motion to approve this item.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Trustee Ryder? Thank you, Trustee Ryder.
The last item on the agenda is a request for approval for final reading of several proposed amendments to Section 600 policies, which is the student affairs and admissions section. At the May meeting, the proposed amendments were presented to you in detail with handouts, a review timeline, and rationale for the changes. As a result of legal review, edits have been made to Section 602D and 604B. These edits are presented in red on the screen and have been made for symmetry in language. The wording changes do not change the intent of the proposed amendments. The proposed policy changes will be effective for spring 2025 applications received after July 1st, 2024, and future term applications. Board staff recommends final approval of proposed policy amendments.
You have heard the recommendations, and I move to approve the item.
Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Trustee Ryder? Thank you, Trustee Ryder.
Dr. Presswood, thank you very much. I know she makes it look easy, but there's a lot more that goes into this than simply standing up there and reading this. So thank you, Dr. Presswood. This concludes the academic affairs regular agenda.
Thank you, Trustee Blakey. And Trustee Parker is absent. I will present the finance regular agenda. Dr. Pierce, please begin with the consent agenda, item 1, which was moved to the regular agenda.
Thank you. Item number 1 from the consent agenda is a request from Jackson State University to enter into a subscription agreement with Aleutian Company, LP. This is a subscription agreement for their Banner Enterprise Resource Services, which will include student software and database services. There was a revision to this agenda item that did not make it into the board book. So the final agreement is a term of 1 year at a cost of $2.7 million. The board book describes this as 4 years and $9.6 million. So we wanted to make sure you were aware of that change. This agreement can be terminated with 30 days notice. Legal staff has reviewed item number 1 from the consent agenda for compliance with applicable law and finds it to be acceptable, and board staff recommends approval of item number 1 from the consent agenda.
Is there a motion to approve the contract between JSU and Aleutian LP?
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Trustee Ryder? Dr. Pierce, please continue.
Thank you. Item number 1 from the regular agenda is approval of the annual operating budget for fiscal year 2025. You should have this book at your desk, which will contain the budget that you're being asked to approve. This would be the document. There is a summary tab which gives some comparisons for the institutions for the different budgets year over year. Then there's tabs for each institution and each budget created by the legislature. So I will be giving an overview of this. So the institutions are presenting for your consideration today a $5.8 billion operating budget for your approval. Of this amount, 1.1 billion is coming from state funds, and 4.6 billion are self-generated funds. What I've done here is to try to show you the different appropriation amount that's coming from the state of Mississippi directly. Overall, there's a 19% of our budget coming from the state of Mississippi directly. There's variations based on the type of budget. At the top, we have the education and general budget. This is the traditional education budget of the system, which is funded 30% by the state. Some capital funds, which have been appropriated through the appropriation process that traditionally had been done through the state bonding process. That appears to be winding down, and we will probably be moving back toward the bonding process in the future. The University of Mississippi at about 10% funding from the state, medical center. The ARPA funds, which were one-time funds provided by the federal government. The agricultural budgets. So as we move down this list, we're getting to budgets that are more funded by the state and less reliant on self-generated funds, which ends with the restricted funds, which are mostly our federal grants, the AIRS funds, and the auxiliary budgets, which are self-funding enterprises of the institutions. For the year-over-year change, we are seeing almost $100 million change in the education and general budget. This comes from a combination of increase in appropriations from the state legislature and also tuition increases and revenue from enrollment growth. The capital funds, as we mentioned, are decreasing. We have been able to receive a substantial amount of capital funding from the legislature over the last 3 years, but now we're beginning to wind that down. The medical center is increasing by $28 million. The ARPA funds are still scheduled to be spent for some of the construction projects that the board heard about yesterday. The agricultural budget is increasing. This is primarily due to a capital increase at the veterinary school. Student financial aid budget, which is governed by another board, but this budget is designed to track the volume of students that the board thinks will be eligible for the scholarships created by the legislature that's funded by the state financial aid budget. Subsidiary units are research and service units from the institutions. These are mostly funded by state funds. Restricted funds are growth and grants. And then finally, a growth and auxiliary budget. If you look at these as a percentage of the total, you can see the education and general budget, which is the traditional education function, is about a quarter of the overall budget. UMMC, being the largest piece, is a third of the annual operating budget. The other teal slice to the side is a restricted budget, which are the grants, research awards at 21%, followed by the auxiliary at 10%. The AIRS programs funds have ended in fiscal year 2022. That was a 20-year funding schedule. We still have some slight carryover funds that were unspent of the program funds. They weren't spent in the fiscal year for which they were appropriated, but they don't lapse to the general funds and they come back to us and we're able to respend. But the bulk of this amount is the interest earned from the endowment, which was funded by the state, which is a $75 million endowment, which has been transferred to the management of the institutions. The education and general budget is increasing by almost $100 million. This excludes the capital funds that were appropriated and ARPA federal funds. This is a nearly $100 million increase, 7%. At the May meeting, you approved a tuition increase average of 3.1%. So that is funding this increase. And there was also a 6.7% increase in funding from the legislature. Much of the funding is due to increase in salaries. So we had asked for salary increases. Those were received. The lowest increase is at Alcorn State University. So this is increased due to the salaries. But what's happening here is the university is adjusting to actual expenses. And so because those were lower, the overall increase is lower. Mississippi Valley is the largest increase in expenses. They are investing in some enrollment initiatives, scholarships, funding that, followed by the University of Mississippi. So the largest piece of the funding for the budgets is from tuition. So over nearly 2/3 of the budget comes from students. less than a third comes from state appropriation, with other, which is minor sort of sales and services, indirect cost recovery, making up the difference. But this is a change from 25 years ago, when the institutions were mostly funded by the state of Mississippi, and students were asked to carry less of a burden. But as some of the funding structure has shifted over the year, this bar on the right for tuition has generally increased year over year. Within the budget, we're able to show you expenses in two different ways. This way is for a functional area. So this is designed to show you what function that the institutions are investing in. So instruction would be primarily the education budget, primarily faculty, things that go into the classroom. Research and public service. So instruction, research, public service make up the three missions of our institutions. But you'll notice there's a large increase in the item called institutional support. This is the central overhead budget, would include administration, president's office, accounting services. But this increase is due in large part to new investments in enterprise resource management systems. So we've had some new software systems coming. And then it also, as we talked about last month, the insurance premium that is increasing, and we're being asked to bear a larger portion of the deductible risk year over year. I guess this is not showing up on the screen, but this is how the pie breaks out. So 36% is dedicated to instruction, 10% due to academic support, 6% to student services, 20% to scholarships. So these are all budgets that directly touch the student. So academic support is going to be library and counseling, student services, student programming. This is 73%, so over $1 billion are going to budgets that are touching the students. The remaining 22% for operation and maintenance and institutional support, again, is going to operating system increases, cyber liability risks, and other insurance programs. We're also able to show you by what we call major object, and this is a more traditional income statement approach to accounting. So this would be personnel, purchases of goods and services. We have almost a 6% increase in personnel, and this reflects the salary increases that the legislature funded for us. So across the campuses, there's a range from about 2.5% to 6.1% of salary increases. This will touch over 8,100 employees, faculty, and staff. Insurance is also affecting this, so that will show up in the contractual services with a $35 million increase, along with other investments. For the University of Mississippi Medical Center, this is the functional budget, so this works out to the budgets by school. In addition to the university hospital and the service area, which is going to be sort of comparable to the institutional support category from the institute, the education and general budget. Most of these are reflections of actual. So you see the School of Dentistry has a decrease, but that reflects getting closer to actual expenditure needs from the current year moving into the next year. The university hospital is primarily funded by patient revenues. So this is going to be increases of patient growth, revenue growth for the services provided. And the university hospital is about 80% of the budget, so the large slice of the pie. For the revenue, the tuition is decreasing by about $2 million, and this reflects closer to actual enrollment expectations adjusted from the current year. The change in sales and services, so that's going to be primarily patient revenue. And then you see that there's a large increase there, and then there's a $94 million decrease. This is a change for how the pharmacy pharmacy sales are counted. So they had been in a other category. Now they're moving into sales and services. Like the institutions, the medical center is offering salary increases. This will be increases to nearly 9,000 employees at the University of Mississippi Medical Center for the salary pool of 22 million that's shown here. Like the institutions, there's also challenges with ERP. We'll have one of those contracts on the agenda today, in addition to insurance. The agricultural budgets are primarily funded by the state of Mississippi, so most of the increases that you'll see here are due to changes in appropriation, and there's salary increases that are going on that the legislature intended to fund. The College of Veterinary Medicine, that's about less than 40% funded from the state of Mississippi. That's because they are more similar to the institutions in that they're charging the tuition revenue. This is a list of our institutes, research centers. These are all line items from the legislature, mostly funded 100% by appropriation. The board office operations are included in this budget. And then finally, the auxiliary budgets. These are the self-funded operating units of the university. So this would include housing, student food service, athletics programs in some cases. You approved last month a 2.8% increase in room rates and a 2.7% increase in board rates. Our housing operation is probably over 60% newly constructed and has debt service associated with the cost of operation. And so some of this funding is going to the debt service there. Delta State has a largest increase of 37%. This is due to a new Sodexo contract, which was approved by the board mid-year. So this reflects the full year cost of that agreement, in addition to some enrollment increases, which is driving higher housing revenue. Board staff recommends approval of the FY 2025 annual operating budget.
Is there a motion to approve item 1?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
President Martin, I have one comment. I'm grateful to the legislature for their appropriations to us, and they certainly allow all of our universities to be able to achieve their mission. I would just point out that one of the slides that we looked at was a 25-year difference in appropriation percentages. For those few of you who are my age that were in college 50 years ago, it's a complete flip. It's 70-30, and that the state provided much more then. Much has changed, and we understand the difference in things that have occurred. I just want to point out that part of our tuition increase is largely due over those years to the fact that we do receive a smaller percentage of our state. They have to make hard decisions in the legislature, and we appreciate what we get. But if we were to look further back, that would even be more significant.
Any additional comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Trustee Rader? Thank you. Motion passed. Dr. Pierce?
Item number 2 on the regular agenda is the FY 2026 funding priorities, which is the budget request to the legislature. You have this colored sheet at your desk with a big, large yellow sheet. This is the detail. So this will be the document that you are going to be asked to vote on. I will try to summarize this for you in the PowerPoint. So for the last 5 years, we have been trying to catch up with our regional peers in the southeastern region. We are at the most current data, about 79% of our peers in terms of faculty compensation for our public four-year one institution. So this would account for 80% of the enrollment for our SREB one institutions. We are below our contiguous states, being at 94%. So we are the lowest by far in our region. When we look at what that means in terms of premium to salary, we are 21,000 below the regional average and almost 14,000 below our contiguous states. We are 10,000, over 10,000 below our next closest competitor, which is Arkansas. So what we have tried to do over the last 5 years is to try to make some closure on that gap. And it's a large gap to make up. We didn't feel like that the legislature could fund the total cost within 1 year. So what we tried to do is break it up into 6-year increments and try to keep up as best we can. And so we feel like made significant progress in that. Unfortunately, it's kind of a moving target. So we are almost in the same place as where we started this process, but at least we didn't lose ground. In the last year, we had to ask for a 6.4% increase on our salaries, which the legislature really did a good job of trying to fund. But because we slipped a little bit, we're increasing that to 7% because we were at 80% this time last year when we asked you to fund this. So that will be a $64 million salary increase ask. After that, we have a PERS increase. So in the change in the PERS legislation this year, there's an anticipated to be a 0.5% increase each year for 4 years. We were in the first year of that in the fiscal year starting in July 1, but we'll need additional funds in the next year. As we talked about at the May meeting, we are facing a larger risk for our insurance deductible costs. So this would be, so for example, our largest deductible would be for our water damage cost, which we've incurred in the past. That would be a $2.5 million deductible. And so what we're asking to do is essentially have this money for days cash on hand so that the university can have this in reserve to hedge against these new deductible premiums. We have, in addition to the salary increase, which has been well received, we've also been asking for an operational inflation cost increase. That has not been funded in the same way that the salary increase has. And discussing with the chief financial officers and among the system, we still feel like that's a need. So what this number represents is you take the non-salary portion of the budget, so contracts, commodities, equipment purchases, and this is an 8% increase. So we had 3 years ago been seeing 6 to 8% inflation. It's slowed down some, but the funding to cover these costs has never quite been achieved. We have a ongoing contract for facility management with Gordian or Sightlines. What they are doing is they are reviewing our buildings. They're giving us a categorization of the deferred maintenance cost so that we can better target how we're putting funds that we get to deferred maintenance. This is a 4-year agreement that the board has approved, and we are asking the legislature for funding to cover the cost of this agreement at $2.3 million. And then finally, there's a category of capital funds that are not really dedicated to a specific project. The legislature in previous years have given that to us for ongoing repair and renovation. The most recent information that we have gotten and looking at our deferred maintenance costs tell us we need to be spending somewhere between 130 and 250 million every year to maintain the buildings at the current state. So this is less than that at 80 million, but it is a level the legislature has been supportive of in the past. UMMC is asking for the increase in the PERS program, and then their funding is based on kind of this ongoing R&R, similar to what the campuses are asking for. And then finally, the subsidiaries in agriculture reflect the PERS increase, the salary increase, and the inflationary cost. Board staff recommends approval of the FY 2026 budget request to the legislature.
Excuse me. Is there a motion to approve item number 2? Any discussion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Trustee Ryder?
Aye.
Thank you. Dr. Pierce, please continue.
Item number 3 is a request from the University of Mississippi Medical Center for approval to extend a license and support agreement with Epic Systems Corporation and to add the Boost service system. Epic is the electronic health record system for UMMC. The term of the extension is for an additional 5 years. The original license and support agreement for UMMC was approved by the board in 2010. The cost of the 5-year extension is $58.2 million, bringing the 19-year cost to $163 million. The agreement can be terminated with 90 days notice of the annual term. Legal staff has reviewed item 3 for compliance with applicable law and finds it to be acceptable, and board staff recommends approval of item number 3.
Is there a motion to approve item number 3? Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. Trustee Ryder?
Aye.
Thank you. Dr. Pierce, please continue. Oh, excuse me. Bridget, let the record reflect that Trustee Ogletree is recusing himself from the discussion on or voting on items number 4 through 7 on the finance regular agenda. Trustee Ogletree, please leave the room. Bridget, will you please let him know when to return. Dr. Pierce, please proceed as soon as she's out. Thank you.
President Martin, unless there's an objection, I recommend we take items 4 through 6 as a group.
Okay.
Item number 4 is a request from the System Office to enter into an agreement on behalf of the Office of Student Financial Aid and the Southern Regional Education Board. The purpose of the agreement is to reserve seats for Mississippi students at out-of-state schools of optometry. This agreement will reserve 9 seats annually for Mississippi students at the Southern College of Optometry and the University of Alabama at Birmingham. The term of the agreement is for 4 years. The System Office will pay the contracted rate for Mississippi students. Then students will apply to the Mississippi Office of Student Financial Aid for a forgivable student loan subject to terms of a master contract. The cost of the agreement over the 4-year term is estimated to be $3.1 million. Item 5 is a request from Delta State University to approve a services agreement with Ruffalo Noel Levitz. Ruffalo Noel Levitz will provide consulting services for enrollment planning, financial aid strategies, and recruitment strategies. The term of the agreement is for 3 years and an estimated cost of $619,000. It can be terminated with 60 days notice. Item number 6 is a request from Delta State University to enter into an apparel contract agreement with BSN Sports, LLC. BSN will supply Under Armour apparel, footwear, and uniforms for Delta State's athletic programs at discounted prices and for other benefits in exchange for a 5-year term at an estimated cost of $750,000 before rebates. BSN was selected through a request for proposal. 5 bids were submitted and BSN offered the most competitive terms. Delta State may elect to terminate the agreement subject to liquidated damages. Legal staff has reviewed items number 4 through 6 for compliance with applicable law and finds them to be acceptable. Board staff recommends approval of items number 4 through 6.
Is there a motion to approve items 4 through 6? Is there a second? Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Trustee Ryder?
Aye.
Thank you. Bridget, would you let the record reflect that I'm recusing myself from discussion or voting on item number 7 on the finance regular agenda?
Dr. Pierce, oh, I guess we gotta wait. Is G coming back in? He's not. Okay, Dr. Pierce, will you please continue?
Item number 7 is a request for the System Office for approval to enter into an excess auto liability insurance coverage agreement with Genesis of Berkshire Hathaway Company. The IHL self-insured tort plan insures against third-party tort claims. To limit its exposure, the plan also purchases auto liability insurance in the amount of $500,000 for in-state coverage and $5 million for out-of-state coverage. This excess policy provides up to $5 million per occurrence, which is applicable to out-of-state accidents. Legal staff has reviewed item number 7 for compliance with applicable law and finds it to be acceptable, and board staff recommends approval of item number 7.
Is there a motion to approve item number 7? Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say no. Trustee Rader.
Aye.
Thank you, Trustee Rader. Bridget, please ask President Martin to return. Also, Trustee Ogletree.
Actually, Trustee Ogletree is just gonna stay out.
Oh, okay, okay. Ooh, a lot of moving parts.
If I get my glasses with it.
This
Thank you.
concludes the regular finance agenda.
Thank you, Trustee Lucky. On behalf of Trustee Ryder, Trustee Lucky will present the real estate regular agenda. You've got a busy day today.
It's me again. Bridget, let the record reflect that Trustee Ogletree is recusing himself from items 1 through 3 on the real estate agenda. He's already out, so we don't have to wait for him. There are 3 items on the real estate regular agenda. Mr. Brad Rowland will present these items for the board's consideration. I would recommend that we take up item 1 and then items 2 and 3 as a group. Mr. Rowland.
Thank you, Trustee Lucky. Today, the first item is from the University of Mississippi for the Ole Miss softball complex addition and renovation. The university is requesting approval to increase the project budget from $32 million to $33.25 million for an increase in the amount of $1.25 million. University of Mississippi is also requesting to modify the funding source to now reflect the EBC funds that the board previously approved as a funding source for the project. The escalation in this project budget is required due to the complex phasing adjustments, additional scope of outfield seating, and latent conditions encountered during the playing field phase of construction. The project will construct a new softball stadium complete with associated amenities and renovate the existing indoor team facility, playing field, and concessions restrooms building as the budget permits. The stadium design will also include coaches' offices, training, treatment space, team lounge, and locker rooms. Board staff recommends approval of this item.
You have heard this recommendation, and I make a motion to approve item 1.
Any discussion? All opposed, say aye. Excuse me, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Trustee Ryder?
Aye.
Thank you.
You're just trying to see if we paid attention.
That's right. I need to be more.
Brad will now present items 2 and 3 as a group. Mr. Rowland?
Thank you. Item number 2 is from the University of Mississippi. It's a request approval to enter a contractual service agreement with Innovative Construction Management, ICM, for construction manager advisor services on the new parking structure. The scope of this project is for a new parking garage. The university is currently working on the addition of 981 new beds within the housing district on campus. With the addition, the university must begin to develop a solution to the parking need in this area. The project will construct a new 7-level parking structure, providing a total of 1,370 parking spaces in the northwest quadrant of campus in the housing district. The contract duration is for June 20th, 24 through 12 months after substantial completion of the new parking structure construction contract. The contract may be terminated by for convenience if the project is canceled or indefinitely deferred should the funds not be available. The projected contract value is approximately $4.4 million. Item number 3 is also an approval to enter a contractual services agreement with Innovative Construction Management for construction manager advisor services at the University of Mississippi Medical Center for the School of Dentistry building on UMMC's campus. UMC is also requesting approval to negotiate and incorporate supplemental and additional services that become necessary during the project to make required project modifications to the contract as long as the changes do not exceed the approved expenditure level. This is for the renovation expansion of the UMC School of Dentistry building. The contract duration is the effective date through 12 months after substantial completion of the construction contract. UMC may terminate the contract for convenience if the project is canceled or indefinitely deferred, and UMC can also terminate by default by ICM in the event insufficient funds are available. The contract value is based on a 3.15% fee of the construction value. The total amount is estimated to fall somewhere between $3.5 and $4 million. The Attorney General's office has reviewed these 2 items for compliance with applicable law and found them to be acceptable, and board staff recommends approval of these items.
You have heard the recommendation. I make a motion to approve items 2 and 3.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay? Trustee Ryder.
Aye.
Thank you, Trustee Ryder.
This concludes the real estate regular agenda, and Trustee Ogletree can return to the room now.
Thank you. Trustee Ogletree, will you present the legal record agenda?
Yes, thank you, President Martin. Before I present it, I'd like to acknowledge that we have 2 new lawyers joining our board, and I certainly welcome Trustees Clark and Heidelberg and joining us, and look forward to working with them. I'll remind all of us that none of those of us who just happen to be lawyers are lawyers for our board, but we still can't take off our legal hat as we look at things, and I look forward to working with them and obtaining their input. There are 4 items on the legal regular agenda today, and Bridget, if you'd let the record reflect that Trustee Clark is going to recuse himself from discussing or voting on items 1 through 3 on the legal regular agenda. And as he steps out and leave the room, then we will tell him when it's time for him to come back. The first 3 items consist of, number 1, a request from the University of Mississippi to approve council to renew its outside counsel contract with Butler Snow. Second is a request from the University of Southern Mississippi for approval to hire Butler Snow as outside counsel. And the third is a request from the University of Mississippi Medical Center to contract with Butler Snow as their in-state lobbying consultant. The board staff has reviewed these items and approved all of them. I make a motion to approve items 1 through 3.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Trustee Ryder.
Aye.
Thank you, Trustee Ryder.
Bridget, if you would ask Trustee Clark to return to the room and let the record reflect that I'm going to recuse myself from discussing or voting on item number 5 of the legal regular agenda, and President Martin will preside as to this item.
Thank you. The 4th item on the legal regular agenda consists of a request from the University of Southern Mississippi to amend its affiliation agreement with the University of Southern Mississippi Athletic Foundation. The board staff recommends approval of this item. Is there a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Trustee Ryder? Thank you, Trustee Ryder. This concludes the legal regular agenda. Bridget, would you please ask Trustee Ogletree to return to the room? He's gone. Gone to the truck. Next is the information agenda. Commissioner Rankins?
Thank you, President Martin. Are there any questions regarding items on the information agendas? If not, thank you, President Martin.
Thank you, Commissioner Rankins. Are there any additional agenda items to be considered?
President Martin, I'd like to, just as a point of personal privilege, and realize I don't want us to set a bad precedent here, but I've had the privilege of working with Rachel Welburn at Mississippi State University, who's going to be retiring. And I just wanted to acknowledge the good work that she does for Mississippi State University and for the state of Mississippi. She is the Associate Director of the Southern Rural Development Center. And what that means is she spends a lot of federal money. And we've looked at budgets, but we have a lot of federal grants that come into our various universities. And I appreciate all the work they do to look for funding sources outside the legislature and outside tuition and outside of their very fine foundations. She has worked very closely with Alcorn State University and its socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers policy. And I had the opportunity to thank Archie Tucker recently when he was at Mississippi Valley State University. He's an alumnus of that institution, for the grants that the USDA has given and for programs that particularly deal with heirs property. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Martin, along those same lines, since we're going, I'd like to offer a simultaneous thank you and a congratulations to Dr. Elisa Mosley, who is this will be our last official meeting as provost at Jackson State, but she's moving on into a new role as Senior Director of AI Initiatives and Supply Chain Management and Tactical Autonomy at Jackson State University. In this role, she'll be leading integration of our AI into the university's supply chain programs. She'll oversee strategic planning, research, and curriculum development focused on AI applications while fostering collaborations with industry partners and educational institutions. That's a mouthful, but I want to first of all just thank you for serving steadfastly and diligently during some tumultuous times and keeping the ship righted as we had that transition in leadership recently. So we thank you from the board for all you've done for JSU and our system.
Yes, we're so thankful for everyone too.
President Martin, I have a report.
Okay.
I know y'all haven't heard from me enough today, but this is they don't let me near a checkbook, but occasionally they let me give the report. But today I would like to bring you good news from the IHL ADA and Accessible Services Task Force. For y'all that do not know, in August of 2003, we started this task force to look at the ADA services on our campuses and to decide ways that we can make them better. All of our campuses do a great job, but we know there's always room for improvement. This was started by co-chairs Dr. Marcus Thompson, who of course has gone on to other things, and Aljanae Frank. And then when Bridget came along, she began as chief of staff, and she took this task force over in a big way. And I want to thank all three of them for the work that they are doing on this task force. And the leadership that they have provided. Also, Dr. Farron Nelson has done great work on this. We've had visits to all of our universities, and we have spent many hours on discussion of ways that we could bring more awareness on our campus to the needs of our students who may need special services. And they are making progress. And I wanted to let you know about that. I'm also happy to report a recent success for the state, which has reestablished the Mississippi affiliated chapter of the Association on Higher Education and Disability. And this will be a great resource for our universities as they move forward. I look forward to hearing more about this work of the task force in this coming year. And I would like to thank all of y'all for the work you have done. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lucky.
Thank you, Dr. Martin.
Uh,
Mr. Martin.
yeah, I was thinking I just got
President
promoted.
Martin.
I get used to that.
Jack Martin.
Is there any other business to handle? Oh, if not, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting? Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Trustee Ryder? Right. We are adjourned, and thanks everyone for their participation today. And please note that we will not have a meeting in July.
Yeah.
Happy summer.